Hey viewers, RageQuit003. I'm at a shooting facility. I got some parts to test out. It's been a while since I bought gun stuff, since the whole coronavirus thing happened. But what I'm going to test out today is I finally got the mount and an optic for my Zastava M90NP. So I'm going to make sure that this doesn't move around on it, because my buddy the steel hunter was telling me when he had a mount on his Zastava gun that it would move around on him. And yeah, it's true, because there's no stops on the side bracket on these Yugo mounts, which is weird. So I have it clamped down really hard in between the scallops that it has for the rivets, and hopefully this won't move. So I'm going to function test that. I won't be able to zero today because they're doing something different here. I actually had to make an appointment to come here, and they don't let you set up paper anymore. They just got steel set up there, so it'll probably be like rough zero function tests. And then I finally put together BRN-180 that I'm going to test out. So this is their 16-inch upper. It is a little different than the ones I've seen online. The scallop on mine is different. Mine also does not have a nickel Teflon bolt, and I had to build a totally separate lower just for this because I always use bad levers on my stuff. So I'm going to make sure both of these work. I still have a buffer and buffer spring in here, and I brought one of my regular AR uppers, so I want to make sure that it still functions with a regular AR upper as well. I have a temporary optic on here just so I can, it's easier for me to zero this red dot and then match it up with Magpul sights. And speaking of Magpul sights, I actually had to fix this one. This is a brand new one, and when I was practicing reloads, Magpul uses the spring pins in here to retain it, and the fucker just popped apart because they didn't put that spring pin in mine. So that was fun. So I actually modified a drywall nail. I chopped it and used some epoxy and hammered it in there. So make sure that works. Other weird quirk that I've noticed on this gun, this dust cover is really sensitive. Let's see if I can do it here. See if I get it to pop for you on camera. There, see, it's really sensitive. So not a deal breaker though. Actually, should walk it back for range safety. But yeah, so I'm waiting on my appointment. I got a couple minutes left before I can go out there, but I'm just here function testing that stuff while I can, because I didn't want to drive out to the desert just to set up a table to do zeros and stuff. So it's quicker for me to come down here. I gotta haul less shit, but we'll see how it goes with that. Hopefully I don't run into any weird issues. And like I say, I can't do official zeros. I don't even know how far they have the steel set up, so it'll be like really rough function testing. session at Ben Avery, and as expected ran into a couple of issues with this one. The mount, even though I put it on super tight initially, it still crept forward like 3 millimeters, and then I adjusted that lock bolt even tighter, and then I had to hammer it on the rail with a PMag, and it still crept forward 3 millimeters because I just shot a whole mag just to see if it would move. I mean, it's zeroed basically. Over here, asked the guy what size steel they're using, and they're using 6-inch squares, 8-inch squares, and 12-inch squares. But yeah, I was hitting the 6-inch at 150 easy, even though this crept forward 3 millimeters. The other weird thing, which hasn't happened with this gun since I first got it and adjusted the gas system, is it kept short stroking on a Gen3 PMag. So I don't know if it's that particular mag that's causing problems, because I cranked it up. I always keep it on gas setting 2, and I cranked it up to gas setting 3, and it seemed to work after that. But I've never had to crank it past 2 on this gun. And I was shooting PMC bronze, which should be a little bit hotter than the tool ammo I usually shoot out of this. But I'm gonna have to think of something on here, because I don't know if it's just going to stay at that 3 millimeter forward position, or if it can still creep forward a little bit. So I'll have to do further testing on that. I might have to modify that rail so I can't slide back and forth anymore. The BRN-180 worked perfect, no cycling issues whatsoever, and the Aero precision lower that I had with it, I used my PSA dissipator upper on it because I have a buffer and buffer spring inside of it, and it worked perfect with that. The only issue with that BRN-180 is I had to crank down my front sight post all the way down because it shoots so freaking high. So it's fine if you're using a red dot, but then when I try to match it up with the flip up sights, and I'm using a K&S Precision, was it a 0.25 front sight post in there, so it's really tiny, so I can get more precision out of it. Even with that, the red dot is still sitting below the front post, and then even when I was testing it out, yeah, it's still shooting high, even though I got it bottomed out. So I might have to modify that front post. I'll probably chop off or grind off the tip on there, because when I checked the bolts on the handguard for the BRN-180, they're not working loose. So I don't know if it's just the nature of how it locks up on there. Maybe it's tilting the sights down a little bit, so I got to adjust it, or maybe it's tilting. It'd be tilting the rail up if I had to adjust the front post down. Maybe that's the issue, or maybe that barrel just shoots super high. But it was super easy to get hits with that also. But yeah, at least it cycled fine, and then that lower I built up from scratch cycled perfectly fine as well, so that's good. But unexpected issues with the Zastava M90NP.